The Wind Hashira, Sanemi Shinazugawa, is one of the most aggressive and unpredictable swordsmen in the entire series. However, what if he went a step further beyond disobedience and turned his back on everything he swore to protect? In today's video, we'll explore 3 different timelines where Sanemi betrays the Demon Slayer Corps, and analyze how it would affect the main storyline and the fight against Muzan. Let's start off with the first timeline, where Nezuko is the reason for Sanemi's betrayal. It begins shortly after the Mount Naragumo arc, where the Kamado siblings are brought before the Hashira to determine whether Nezuko should be allowed to live. In the original story, Sanemi stabs Nezuko through her box and then provokes her to attack him by cutting his own arm and tempting her with his rich Marechi blood. But picture this instead. During Nezuko's trial at the Hashira meeting, instead of just trying to provoke her, Sanemi goes too far. In a moment of both arrogance and fury, he delivers a fatal blow to Nezuko before anyone can stop him. The other Hashira are stunned. Kaguya arrives to find chaos, with Giyu struggling to restrain an enraged and broken Tanjiro, while Sanemi looks on defiantly. All hope for demon-human coexistence has literally been scattered in the wind as Sanemi addresses the Corps. He claims that the Hashira, especially Giyu, are too weak and forgiving. He argues that Nezuko would have killed innocent people eventually, and that it was too much of a risk to let her live and grow stronger. Kaguya's disappointment makes the atmosphere feel twice as heavy, as he calmly reproaches Sanemi for acting without authorization. With his blood still boiling after the encounter with Nezuko, Sanemi tells Kaguya that his authority can go to hell, and announces that he will be leaving the Corps to forge his own path as a demon slayer. Within weeks, Sanemi gains a reputation as a ruthless demon hunter with one simple rule: all demons die, no exceptions. His conviction is so strong that he ends up attracting 3 unlikely allies, who leave the Hashira to join Sanemi's side. Iguro Obanai is the first to join, as he has always had a good relationship with Sanemi, and shared the same uncompromising principles as the Wind Hashira. Obanai's own childhood trauma and hatred of demons makes Sanemi's absolute stance far more appealing than Kaguya's pragmatism, making him an ideal lieutenant for the new Corps. Uzui Tengen sees that Sanemi's approach to hunting demons is far flashier than that of the regular Demon Slayer Corps, and decides to follow in Obanai's footsteps. Tengen and Obanai have always believed in forging their own paths, so their defection was somewhat understandable, but the most shocking addition to Sanemi's side was the insect Hashira Kocho Shinobu. Ever since Kanae's death, Shinobu's hatred of demons has only grown, and the prospect of allowing one into the Demon Slayer Corps was the final straw. Shinobu wanted to go all out, and it seems Sanemi was the best choice to achieve that. So how does the world change in this timeline? Well, the only real difference is Nezuko's absence, since Sanemi is still technically fighting against Muzan and demonkind. Tanjiro would also still remain in the Demon Slayer Corps, and he will still feel the need to kill Muzan to avenge his family. The Mugen Train and Swordsmith Village arcs would still have the same outcome, but the critical difference is the development of Tamayo's anti-Muzan drug. Remember, the demon-human transformation drug was primarily driven by the need to cure Nezuko, meaning that its development would more or less be put on hold after Nezuko's death. Given that Tamayo won't be joined by Shinobu in this timeline either, there's a good chance the anti-Muzan drug ends up being weaker, but a Demon Slayer win is still the likely outcome. But now let's move on to the more impactful second timeline, where the Demon Slayer Corps makes a horrifying decision. Before Tanjiro or Nezuko ever join the organization, Genya comes under scrutiny for his ability to consume demon flesh and temporarily gain demonic powers. The Demon Slayers find themselves in a dilemma. On the one hand, he's clearly human, but on the other, no one knows when he might choose to embrace being a demon full-time. Genya was brought before the Hashira just like Nezuko will be in the future, and the most powerful Demon Slayers began discussing whether he should live or die. The final decision made by the Hashira is cold and practical. Today he fights for humanity, but what about tomorrow? Ubuyashiki Kaguya issues the order with a heavy heart. Genya Shinazugawa poses an unacceptable risk. His execution will be carried out at dawn. When Sanemi learns of his brother's death sentence, something breaks inside of him. All those years pushing Genya away, all that cruelty designed to keep him safe, and the Corps wants to kill him anyway. He tries everything: reason, threats, even begging, but the decision is final. Genya will die for the crime of being different, for having abilities that make others uncomfortable. The night before the execution, Sanemi tries to break his brother out of where he's confined, but Genya himself refuses to go along with the plan. He already believes in the decision made by the Hashira that he's looked up to for so long. But even more than that, Genya doesn't want Sanemi to throw away everything he's worked so hard for. Little did he know that his brother was prepared to lose much more than his title as a Hashira. On the day of the execution, Sanemi storms the grounds, prepared to kill anyone that stands in his way. He takes out a bunch of Kakushi members who make the mistake of getting in his way, and immediately the path towards Genya clears. No one who loves their life wants to get in the way of a crazed Wind Hashira. Even though Kaguya predicted that Sanemi would try something, he didn't expect that the Wind Hashira would be so brutal in his approach. Luckily, the other Hashira were standing by at the scene, and they immediately confronted Sanemi to stop him from hurting anyone else. The battle is brutal. Sanemi fights like a man possessed, holding off multiple other Hashira while trying to reach Genya. However, Sanemi is outnumbered, and his indiscriminate violence forces the others to fight him seriously. When the Hashira finally stop him, Sanemi is covered in deep cuts, with his bones broken by Gyome's chains. In the end, Sanemi can only watch as the blade falls, and he loses the only family he had left. Sanemi doesn't die in the battle. Instead, he's left broken and expelled from the corps he gave everything to serve. The other Hashira, traumatized by what they've done, never quite recover either. Sanemi becomes a wandering demon slayer, hunting alone, driven by rage and guilt. His skills remain deadly, but his heart is completely shattered. Once again, even though having one less Hashira hurts the Demon Slayer Corps, the final events don't really change much, as the majority of their forces remain intact. But this is where we diverge into our third timeline. After Genya's death, Sanemi decides that it's not enough for him to just distance himself from the Demon Slayer Corps. He needs to take revenge. After his confrontation with the Hashira, Sanemi knows that he has no shot at taking them out as he is now. Even if he can take out one or two Hashira, they would surely stop him before he got to the real villain, Kaguya. This meant that Sanemi needed to be stronger, but how could he possibly grow to the point where he outclasses the likes of Gyome and Kyojuro? In a moment of desperation and turmoil, Sanemi makes a terrible decision. The memory of his brother's special ability reminds him that there's only one shortcut to massively magnify your power. Sanemi begins killing lesser demons, and always speaks to Muzan and asks to be turned into one before delivering the finishing blow. This eventually catches the Demon King's attention, and he sends Kokushibo to check out if the former Hashira is being serious about becoming a demon. After meeting Kokushibo, Sanemi immediately accepts the offer to consume Muzan's blood and begins the slow and painful transformation into a demon. As one of the most powerful demon slayers, Sanemi's body violently rejects Muzan's blood at first. However, motivated by the memory of his brother, Sanemi withstands the transformation through sheer force of will. Now, we know how strong Kaigaku was when he transformed, as he was just immediately promoted to the rank of Upper Moon 6. Kaigaku's downfall was his ego and lack of awareness of Zenitsu's strengths. But Sanemi has neither of these weaknesses. He has an incredibly accurate idea of what each Hashira can do, and he knows exactly how strong he needs to beat them. The only precedent for someone on this level is Kokushibo, and Sanemi soon becomes a threat on par with the Upper Moon 1 himself. Sanemi launches his plans for revenge a few months after Tanjiro joins the Demon Slayers. Over the years, he perfected his Blood Demon art to summon Gale Force winds with every attack, and has risen to the rank of Upper Moon 2. His first target is the Hashira. One by one, he hunts down his former comrades. Kyojuro is the first to fall, with the flame in his heart being snuffed out when Sanemi attacks like a hurricane. A few months later, he targets Obanai, the one Hashira he trusted to have his back, but still ended up allowing Genya to be executed. Now at this point, the Demon Slayers might tighten their security to ensure Sanemi can't sneak up on any of the other Hashira when they're alone. However, even if that's the case, the damage has already been done. The battle at the Infinity Castle and the Sunrise Countdown were already incredibly close. Imagine what would happen with Sanemi fighting for the demons instead of humanity. Without Sanemi, the battle against Kokushibo would probably end in more casualties, and some Demon Slayers would be diverted to fight Sanemi himself. By the time they reach Muzan, the top-tier Demon Slayers would be so bruised and battered that they would be simply incapable of defending themselves from the Demon King. And that wraps up every variation of Sanemi betraying the Demon Slayer Corps. Which timeline would you like to see in the Demon Slayer universe? Let us know in the comments down below.